So this is Baruch. We're at the Tikkun Elevator Kollel. We're going to start a new Parsha this week in the ZOHAR. Let me see if I make sure I got the right one. Yeah, this is Titzaveh. That's where we're going over here in the ZOHAR. Now, I've been listening on YouTube to a physicist by the name, last name is Freiman, F-R-E-Y-N. Maybe I got it wrong. Maybe it's Feynman. It's unusual spelling of that name. But at any rate, maybe Jewish. He doesn't know anything about the Zohar. He doesn't know anything about the Ariya Kodesh or Rebbe Shimon, but he studies physics. And so it turns out that although he has no God in his physics, right? In other words, he could say there was a Big Bang. You could say there was a Big Bang, but he doesn't know who lit the fire, who's the who. He's not looking at that. He's looking at spatial arrangements and different mathematical things according to I really don't remember all the names. I'll try to learn more about it. But you see that it's actually very much in sync. He says that a human being, cannot live on Mars. We are made out of the stuff of the earth. Isn't that the Torah? We're earthbound. Now we could go visit. Getting back, he says, would be impossible at the current level. He just says it's impossible. And he goes on and explains why. So at any rate, we are earthbound. We are in sync with all of the planets, constellations, the different depths of the galaxies, and so on and so forth. And this reminds me of Rabbi Yaakov Cronenberg. So a guy with not a tremendous amount of money, but was a scholar, and he put together a book, the Jewish, what's it called? Jewish Astrology of Cosmic Science. It's another book, a Gentile book, which is called Astrology of Cosmic Science. So he just put it Jewish, and it's a tremendous, tremendous work. Produced here in the 21st century. You can get it in paperback. It's big. It's big, and I haven't finished doing it on the air yet. But you see how all of these things are deeply entwined in the cosmos, in the ball of the earth, and all the orbiting and going around. All of that is there. Now, we're going to talk about here in the Parashat Titzaveh start. You know how we're doing surveys, and there are different kinds of Zohar here. So let's come over. This is what looks like Parshas Titzaveh, a Sefer Zohar. So Parshas Titzaveh. VATAH Titzaveh b'nei Yisrael, and now you should command the children of Israel. Because of VATAH hakrev alecho es Aaron achicho, so you should bring for yourself, to you, Aaron your brother, the kahana li, to serve me as a priest. I'm a Rebbe Hiksha, the Rebbe is a kasha. He said, Mashna hocho. What's the difference here? Mibikol aser. What's the difference here? Mash nishtana kan. Mibikol makom b'Torah. Dechsiv va'ata, where it says here, and va'ata tahakrev alecho, va'ata tedaber el kol chach melev, va'ata tetzaveh es b'nei Yisrael, va'ata kach lucho b'samim rosh, more dror. Lama lo kosov vihi kravda. Why'd you say, what do you need to be atah for? V'dibarta, v'zivisa, v'lakachta. B'li midas va'ata, without the words va'ata. Kamo b'chol mako, because that's where it normally would be. Mataretz ella kula b'razi Elohi, but the whole is a very deeply hidden secret. Whenever you see va'ata before these commands, whose sod gadol is a big sod, the idea of this command is to draw together the Shechita with him. The kolo es Shechita in Moshe Rabbeinu, b'midas va'atah. So the question is how does that work? What could it be? Now, I'm saying, just my own mind, and looking at this, is that the letter Vav usually refers to Zeranpin. The question is what does Ata? So if you wanted to say that, he's going to say something like that. Look, I cheated. I looked at it before. I don't want to cheat again. Ki Hashkina Nikras Ata. The Shkina is called Ata, he said. So we have two things. We have a Vav and we have an Ata. The Fishehi Sod Olam HaNigla, because she is the secret of Olam HaNigla. So he says now, he threw that in, I think. This is where everything is manifest in the Nook. It gets more and more detailed and solid inside of the Nook, as she is the ultimate shaper and distributor of everything. I'm the Pardes, he says this is the Pardes from the Ramak, Ba'erech Atah, where he's talking about this. V'amar Kodesh Baruch Hu Moshe. So the Kodesh Baruch Hu, which normally is their Anpin, spoke to Moshe, and he says, V'ata, and you, Hainu im Ashkina, together with the Shkina Chaklula imcha, which will be incorporated with you. Titzaveh v'tedaber, you should command and you should speak as call Elu Hadavarim El Bnei Yisrael. So he says there's a yichud that's going to take place in you with the Shkina, and you're going to speak. Now, how's this work? Let me pull this down this way a little bit. There we go. So it says, Omer Rebbe Yitzchak. Rebbe Yitzchak says, Paleg v'Omer, so he's going to argue. He's going to say like this. Ki nehora ilah v'nehora teta, there is an upper light and there's a lower light. Khalil kachada, they join together into oneness. Ikri v'ata, and those two therefore make the word v'ata. Or ha'elyon shuhu zer anpen, which is represented by the letter vav. V'or ha'tachtam shuhu ha'malchus, and lower letters which are malchus. Hakolulim yachad besod hayichud, which are organized together in the secret of a yichud nikroim va'ata, together. They put them together, and you have the upper light and the lower light in one. Ki ozvav is their anpen. Umilus ata hi hamalchus, and the word ata refers to malchus. You're going to make them into one name. Kamadaat Amar, like you say, like this, because it said this about ZOHAR v'no. VATAH mechaya as kulam, and you will bring life to all of them. Ki ad yedei yichudim, and how does that happen? When you actually mate and you become into oneness. Mamshichim shefa v'or me'ein sof baruch hu, it causes shefa and light from the ein sof baruch hu. The hachios as called almost to bring his life force into all of the hidden worlds and more revealed worlds. V'ador lo kasiv, and this is not written. V'al kain lo kasav, and therefore it's not said. V'hi kravda es Aaron achicho, that I brought your brother Aaron close. V'tzifizech b'nei Yisrael, and I commanded the b'nei Yisrael, etc. But dibartach al b'nei Yisrael, and I spoke to them. But no, it has the va'ato. Below milas va'ato, it doesn't have the word at va'ato in it. So he goes on. Where are we? Right here. Begin the hachu zimna sharish shimsha b'sichra, because at that moment the metaphor is letting together in oneness the sun and the moon. The fish b'zecha hakamas hamishkan, to be this thing here, the setting up of the mishkan. Hoyeshorish hashemesh, who's their anpin. So the mishkan, it says, he says the setting up process of the mishkan is the secret, and the root is their anpin im halavana, together with the moon. Sheham malchus besod the yichud, and malchus. I think I read it. I read into it not what the Matok wants to say. So let's go back to what he said. Shebizman hakamas hamishkan koyer shora hashemesh who's their anpin im halavana shehi malchus. They lived together. They became one being. So the yichud, and that is the secret of yichud. The yichud is one of the most fundamental and important concepts in the Zohar. Is that the name of Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei, is the name of yichud, and the infinite one is only one. But nonetheless, we live in a world which is distorted, and so therefore it seems to us there are multiple ones. So he said, "Yishtatev kula kachada." Then they all join completely together. V'nishtatvecha v'kol haspheros ka'echad. Then all the spheros. Imagine your spinal cord is now the whole pulls all the rest of the body to it. The sharia al umanaza, the uvada, the shrosh al umanos, in order to look over, because I think it's the shrosh to dwell on the craftsman, or the craftsmanship. Shal malachas a mishkan, also chachmei lev, that the chachmei made, are making. Then he says, L'chein kasa VATAH. So therefore, we have this word VATAH. One refers to Zeranpin, moving together with Malchus. They are one. The Horish Shekal Ma She'asa Moshe L'malachas Mishkan, to tell you that everything that Moshe did in regards to the work that had to be done in the Mishkan, Hoya B'koch Kutsha B'riv V'shkinte. Look a little bit more. Here's a little blurb here. Try to. I know it's primitive, but that's what it is. Hine inyad yichud zun, the idea of putting two opposites together, the male and the female, hanizkarm b'drash zeh, enu yichud zun gedolim. Now this is where he really is testing me to try to understand what he's saying. So from this, you have to know some of the Eitz Chaim, which is in the Otzros Chaim. And I forgot a lot of it, so we'll read what he says and try to make sense. He says, Tamed Zun Hagadolim, Elahu Yichud Shel Yaakov Leah, but the Yichud is not in between ZOHAR and Nuk, that is the main male force or the female force. Yaakov and Leah are, I'm not sure how Leah gets into this, because you have Rachel and Leah are his wives. Leah is from the Chaz of the Mala of Zeranpin, and Rachel is from the Chaz of the Mat of Zeranpin. They cover his backside. Here we have Yaakov, which is a partzuf which is generated on the outside of Zeranpin, and Leah. So Yaakov normally is from the Chaz of the Mata. Leah is from the Chaz of the Mala. One of two things have to happen. Either he has to come to her or she has to come to him. But for them to make a yichud, he's going to rise up to that level. And she's going to cross over a little bit. I'm not sure I remember exactly how that goes. Kamasha Kosev, he said, Bishar Lamed Beis and Perak Aleph of the Eitz Chaim. Zel Shono. Anam Hazivug Hana'asach Bedoch Midvash. So, in the generation, there is a partzuf called the Dora Midbar. I think I got off on that a little bit wrong. So it's Amach Bezivuk Hana'asa B'Dora Midbar. During that period of time, there is a Yichud Choya Bechidas Yaakov V'Nukve Anikros Dora Midbar. No, I was not wrong. Read it again. The female aspect with which Yaakov can make a Yichud is called by the name Dor HaMidbar. And it's Leah. V'kol haneshama shel Dor HaMidbar, so all of the neshamas that existed in the generation in the desert, kulam koya nimshachos mezivug zeh, all of them came from this yichud. V'chein nikros al shamam, so therefore it's called by their name. In other words, this partzuf is called the Dor HaMidbar because it produces all the neshamas. It's a deep subject in the Otzros Chaim, and I haven't seen it in a long time. So the Zohar goes on, he says, Amar Rebbe Lazar, Emes kedevaracho, shamalechas hamishkan choyse b'koich zun. How, in fact, was the Mishkan and the miraculous things that happened to get it up? It was all done through the power of the Yichud of ZOHAR v'Nuk. And remember, so if you're married, and there are always times in marriages when things are fights, there's struggles and difficulty. Coming together, patient, can produce a yichud with zun. Avol lo dai lamdahum mepesukim shekasa b'chem VATAH. It's not enough. Lamdahum mepesukim, to learn this out of the concept of the pesukim, which really are talking about the word VATAH. Ge'elechem inyan l'umanas hamishkan, because it doesn't have any thing to do about actually the work that took place in the Mishkan. Ela mechocha, but here, this, in other words, I guess this is the only place you see it. Mikan anu lomdim es zeh dechsiv v'asa betzalel v'halio v'kol ish chacham lev asher nasan Hashem chachma huzvuna be'ema ladas la'aso says kol malachas avodas hakodesh. So there is a yichud. So he says what? V'hainu ki zer anpin shuhu sod Hashem yudke vavke nasan chachma v'tevuna. So zer anpin was able to deliver the shefa that came into him from chachma and bina, shehem ha'aros ava ve'ima, which are the lights, or the shinings of chachma and bina, is another word to say ava ve'ima. Because oseh melechas the mishkan, for all of those who are doing the work in the mishkan, derek and malchus, and it's all going to come through malchus. Now, exactly how they work this out, we'll go a little bit more. Rebbe Shimon Amar said like this: the pasuk kanal, the pasuk we're talking about, Ein bo remez ala malchus. It's not, has no reference to malchus at all. That is, it only has it ele mechacha mekan anu lomdim es zeh. So from here we learn this. Dechse VATAH tedaber el kol chochme lev al shem malesim ruach chochma. Because it says ata tedaber el kol chochme lev asher malesim ruach chochma. So I brought them hu ruach chochma umachshen yesakashanis asher malesim beboyle. Im kulke peshuto kshenemer al chochme lev kol yitzark loma beloshen rabim asher malesim. Again, so he has a kasha on this. He says it's asher he machsha asher malesim meboyle. That's the way it should have been written. Im chuka peshuto, if it's in its simple meaning, shenemer al chachmei lev choyet tzork lomer peloshen rabin, because there's a lot of them, and you have to say it in plural. Asher malesim. But it doesn't say malesim; it says malesav. So you have to answer that. That's what it should have said. Ela asher malesav lahahu liba. She malesi, I have filled them as a malchus hanikras lev. Malchus is all the different names for malchus. Malchus is called the heart. So he says that's hard to understand. So a Pirush pasuk that is like this. Shazer anpin arma l'Moshe. Shazer anpin says to Moshe, "Va'ata tedaber el kol chachmei lev, and you should speak to all the chachmei lev. Haino el chachamim ha'osim as malachas mishkan. Those are the ones, the people, the chachamim that are making the mishkan. Hanikroim chachmei lev. Why are they called chachmei lev? V'fi shehem mushrashim b'malchus. Lev is malchus. Chachmei lev means that's where they come from. Asher malesiv. Now, why is it like as a malchus that I have filled it up? Malchus, I filled up malchus. What did I fill it up with? Ruach chachma. Ruach chachma. So this is understanding that has this, he's telling us the shorsh of where the inspiration came from. It came from a yichud of zun. Now we're focusing on malchus, which is the female part of that, which actually is the ultimate receptacle for receiving the sheva. As a malchus ruach chachma brings that in, kamada atam. He said like this: Ember b'melech hamashiach shuba b'chinas malchus. We're going to say that it's the aspect of malchus. Malchus does not mean the ruler, but it comes out like that. But malchus means the ultimate receptacle of the light of God. V'nacha olav ruach Hashem, and then rests on him the ruach Hashem, ruach chachma, that same ruach chachma, Let's see what the Matok says. Shuhu ha'aras zer anpen ha'nikros. Let me get it up here. The Ruach of Zachan zer anpen, which is called by the name ha'nikros Ruach Chachma. The feet shall Chachma me'ira betoch zer anpen, because the Chachma is shining into zer anpen. Now, let me see how I can't quite get this on the page. Okay, I think it is. V'aldo itzrech, on this it's necessary. V'al kein hutzrach lomer. You have to say this. Asher malesiv ruach chachma. You don't say malesim. He's talking about one entity, which I believe is Malchus. Malchus and Zer Anpin is called ruach. From Zer Anpin is come the ruach of chachma, the horus to teach. The Sharia Shemshach Besichara, that they are living together, the sun and the moon as one. In other words, she takes from him everything he has to give her. Shemshach Besichara Ba'ashla Musach, the Kula, makes everything complete. Shesharach Hashemish Huzer Anpen Ba'alavana, which is Malchus. But so the Yichud B'Shleima shall call Hasvirus, in the secret of the Yichud, the complete Yichud of all the Shleish Shemus. Just imagine that your spinal cord, which is relatively small, is very powerful. But let's suppose that originally it was separated from the sides, for the right side and the left side. Maybe there's a spinal cord over there and another one on the left side. Of course, we have nerves going down like that. But let's say that was. And you're now going to take them and you're going to bind them into one thing. Now that is very dynamic and very powerful. And that's why we say they were striking each other. And as a result of that, they will reproduce. So Rebbe Shimon shall call Sasfiras al Yonas al Yedei Shazer Anpen Mile es a Malchus. He fills the Malchus. Baruch Chochma Shabbat Shorish Kol HaSfiras, and that Ruach Chochma is the root of all of the Sfiros. They all line up, and all that continues to flow. The ADAR Isrishim Kulu Bakol Asa. So here we see that they were impressed on this in every place. So therefore, at the time when the Mishkan is established, Nirshimil Kol Sfiros, they all make an impression. Bakol Makam Sha'asa Chochmei Lev, in all of the places that the Chochmei Lev would have to work. Now I got to finish up. I need to read this again. Es Amalechas Mishkan. Now we're talking about the time that it actually is built up. Nirshimul Kol HaSfiros, there's an impression of all of the spheres. All the spheres make impressions, stamps. B'kol makom, in every place, she'asa chachmei lev es melechas hamishkan. Wherever they were working, there was an impression of all of the spheros in the place where they worked, as melechas hamishkan. So that's the Zohar here for today. We're not aiming at, Ben Shapiro's audience. This is study of Sod, and the idea is to get an inner understanding, or an understanding of the inner actions of the Ein Sof Baruch Hu, as if we could say that. That's it. Baruch Fleischman.